Somewhere I feel it in my soul. One chance is everything we've waited for. It's our time, so let me take it home and knock it out of this world.
So we continue to update you on the ICC T20 World Cup. Canada followed their sporting rivals USA in scoring an upset win over Ireland in their Group A fixture in New York earlier on Friday. Batting first, the Canadians, led again by player of the match, Barbados-born Nicholas Curtin with 49, and wicketkeeper Shreyas Mova, 37, posted 137 for 7 in their allotted 20 overs. Byron McCarthy and Craig Young were the best bowlers for the Irish with 2 wickets each. Now chasing 138 to win, Ireland stuttered their way to 125 for 7 in their 20 overs, with number 10 batsman Mark Adair top scoring with 34 and George Dockrell sporting with 30. Pacers Jeremy Gordon and Dylan Haliger, both originally from Guyana, had 2 wickets each. Let's get the analysis now from Nikhil Uttamchandani. The Canadians very, very strong today. They didn't play badly against the USA. So maybe, Nikhil, we shouldn't be surprised by the result they got today against the Irish.
Yeah, Lance, we shouldn't. And I think it tells you about a shift in associate cricket. I think both the USA and Canada are a representation of what added opportunities for associate nations can do. Ireland would have expected, as a full member nation, to sort of roll over a team like Canada. They beat the USA in a 3-game series during COVID. But look, the challenge has intensified when you play those associate teams, and it was really a clinical game from Canada. I thought the use of conditions from their bowlers, they ran into a bit of trouble with bat in hand, but the way Nicholas Curtin has gone about his batting in this tournament, it has been admirable. You look at the rotation of strike, the patience, and the way he's been sort of very selective against the deliveries he's taken on what has been tough surfaces. And I watched that knock today at 49, even the 51 against the USA in the first game. In those 100 runs, he's faced 67 balls and only 16 of them have been docked. So he's scoring off of a lot of deliveries, and he's been very busy at the crease. And I think he's been the heart and soul of their batting approach. They'll need their top order to fire at some stage, but with him batting like that and sort of keeping the middle together, going from sort of batting in the middle to finishing the innings, it's a really impactful innings, and it has been a really impactful performance from him.
Yeah, Nikhil, how good is Nicholas Curtin? Because you would have seen him in Barbados. He was a former Barbados under-19 captain, also represented Barbados at the senior level. I think he went to Queen's College before going to the home of cricket, Combermere, for sixth form. Is that so?
Yeah, correct. And obviously he's made his first-class debut in 2019 in Barbados. He's played a few seasons of the Super 50, 4 first-class games, but has always been sort of that 50-over player. One thing, when just watching him in the last couple of Super 50s in the Caribbean, he would always get starts. And again, it's not easy for young players to play for Barbados. We know how many internationals Barbados produce, and they've had years where the likes of a Jason Holder, for example, or Raymond Reefer, Kyle Mears have been available, have been in and out of the team. So it's been hard for Curtin to get that sort of opportunity. I think where he was probably at his best was when he was at CCC and was having that sort of opportunity to lead a team, to sort of hold a majority of responsibility with bat in hand. But the way he's sort of gone over to Canada, he spent a lot of time up there in League 2, had a really good season earlier this year, got, I think it was 350s, helped them be top of the table in that 50-over tournament. The way he sort of acclimatized and fit into that team, I'm really happy for him. And it seems like he's sort of unlocked a new level in his game because he's got consistent opportunities to bat with responsibility in the Canada top order.
Yeah, and he did have a short time, I think, with the Jamaica Tallowers as well in the CPL. But on the Guyanese front now, the two Pacers, Haliger and Jeremy Gordon, also former Ghana representatives, and combining with Nicholas Curtin to give the Canadian team a strong Caribbean boost.
Yeah, Jeremy Gordon obviously has got express pace, as we saw today. The way he was able to get Paul Sterling out, it was serious pace, and it troubled him with that short delivery. But he's been in and out of the Canada side. I hadn't honestly seen out of him because he's been sort of dealing with injury and didn't play in that USA series, for example, the 5-match series before the World Cup. But Dylan Haliger is one. If you look at his T20 numbers, they're staggering. He just is able to, I think, use conditions really well. He also hits a long ball, but what he's done with his bowling, he's just used conditions by hitting the deck. And you saw it today again. The fact that you could have two seamers who are probably close to 140 kilometers per hour on that surface, which you don't know what to get. when the ball hits certain areas, it can be a bit too paced. You get that variable bounce. I think just to see how Hiliga has sort of adapted and been a lot more consistent, that was sort of the biggest criticism in his game, where he had the pace, had that troubling delivery on a heavy length, but how often could he hit it? And he did well in that USA series and really well today. And for those two seamers to concede less than 20 runs and over, it speaks to their control. And of course, they got the 2 wickets apiece.
Yeah, very, very important win there for Canada. But I think, Nikhil, we should spend some time talking about Ireland because they are now at back-to-back losses. And for me personally, I think one of the areas that has really failed them would be their batting department, because against India, they were 96 all out. And today, again, it was really difficult for them to get to the total. Canada 137, so they would have had to get 138. And again, their batting it's in that department that they really suffered.
Yeah, and it was just a few years ago, Mariah, when Ireland came to the Caribbean and did very well against the West Indies. But it just seems like they've sort of lost their way in the last couple of years. And again, it's tough. They don't play as much cricket as some of the other full member nations. So always difficult sort of to compete. You saw them recently having to move one of their series, I think it was to Abu Dhabi, because of financial implications, not being able to host cricket in Ireland. So they've had their issues and struggles in the sort of background and behind the scenes. The real problem I see is that there's been an over-reliance on Paul Stirling. We know how experienced he is at the T20 level. Really, the two youngsters who I thought have sort of taken on the mold and sort of responsibility in that Ireland batting lineup is Curtis Campher and Harry Tector. They're two sort of young talents that I expect to really ascend over the next 3 to 5 years. But when they lost Paul Stirling today, they lost 5 wickets for 33 runs, and it was always going to be tough, even with that sort of low order fight back. To get close to the runs, it was never going to be easy to chase when you're 5 or 6 down and so much time in the game is left. So credit to Canada and their bowlers, but Ireland have got to go back to the drawing board and find ways to post a bit more competitive totals on the board in conditions that are quite foreign to them.
Yeah. And this is the match I've been waiting to talk to you about. West Indies versus Uganda will be tomorrow. West Indies coming off a win and Uganda coming off a win against Papua New Guinea. So, we're looking forward to see how that one goes. Can you just give us some insight into what you think we are to expect?
Yeah, really good performance from Uganda. Obviously, I say that relatively in terms of where they have reached with their cricket. Yes, to get 77 runs. I don't expect, watching Uganda play those first 2 matches, that the West Indies will have any real problem. I think PNG posed a bigger threat than Uganda could pose. However, I say that because I just looked at what PNG had, and in terms of what plagues the West Indies, it was the spin, it was pace off the ball in terms of their steamers. But the West Indies have to be wary of the Ugandan spinners because they've got Musaba, who bowls his leg spin. They've got Alpesh Ramjani, the left arm spinner. So they will face a healthy dosage of spin correction. And this was the problem in that PNG game, which almost lost them the game. It was the dots against spin in the middle. It's a point of emphasis for Darren Sammy. It has been for the West Indies in the last 2 years. So let's see how much the improvement will be in this game against a team with similar options when it comes to slower bowlers and pace-off bowlers on a slow pitch in Guyana, which we expect. What I do like is that it is at 8:30. The West Indies play Afghanistan and New Zealand both at 8:30 p.m. So it's a good indication of how they deal with the dew factor, how they sort of react under lights that late at night, because in the Caribbean, we don't play a lot of cricket at 8:30 p.m. So excited for the challenge, but I expect the West Indies to dominate.
Yeah, and one of the things we do here on the SportsMax Zone, Nikhil, is we ask our viewers for their input. We get them involved in whatever we're talking about. And yesterday, we got some reactions in our interactive segment. A lot of people actually asking for Shimron Hetmyer and Shea Hope to play. I'd love to hear your take on that. Or is it too early to make changes like that?
Yeah, for me, I think, Mariah, I don't see how either of them get into the team. Shea Hope, the only way I can see him in, and I'm saying this because, again, it's not the batting. I keep saying it's nothing to do with his batting. I think Shea Hope has established himself in T20 cricket as someone who can go through the gears. He's evolved his T20 game, and definitely he's one of the better batters in terms of a more all-rounded batter in this team. But the problem is that Roston Chase has also found a similar gear in terms of his batting. He's very good against spin with his sweeps. and critically, he is a sixth bowling option. So for those reasons, I think Roston Chase, given the conditions we have in the Caribbean and what we've seen, he's going to play almost every game, at least initially in this World Cup. And unless Johnson Charles is the one to sort of sit down and allow J-Hope to open, I can't see any other way of him getting in the team. In terms of Hetmeyer, again, like for me is Sherpain Rutherford, and I don't see how Hetmeyer gets in over Rutherford, given every opportunity, barring the last game against PNG, that Rutherford has had to play for the West Indies since his return. He has capitalised, and that 50 against Australia we saw earlier this year was the perfect sort of example of what he brings to your middle order. He's improved drastically against spin, and I just think based on what he has achieved, Hetmeyer had his opportunities at the end of last year, was dropped for Rutherford. I think it's only fair to Rutherford that he is back. So unless the West Indies are willing to play just 5 bowlers, I don't see a way for either of them to get into the team.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I sort of made that point when we saw that in the interactive comment yesterday. Nikhil, I heard you just mention that you didn't think that the West Indies should have trouble against the Ugandans, although you did think that they have to pay some attention to the spin bowling that they've got. But for me, their batting looks too weak. Uganda's batting for me looks pretty weak, and I hardly see them holding up against the West Indies in this fixture on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lance. I just think it's a lack of experience, a lack of exposure. Uganda obviously wouldn't face sort of this type and this quality of bowling lineups. When you look at the teams that they play in the African qualifiers, they beat Zimbabwe, but again, T20 cricket is the sort where you can have a great day. Your bowlers can really pull you through. And I like what I see from a bowling perspective. The 3 spinners, Juma Miyagi, the seamer, who has that bit of extra pace, Kuyuta, who also can swing the ball both ways. I like it, but the problem is you need to score runs. And I think the West Indies are just too powerful for them. But they will learn a lot from this. They'll take up from this a win against PNG. You saw all the sort of what it meant to the players who work 2 and 3 jobs as well as playing cricket. So it's a great opportunity for them to get an understanding of what this level of cricket is like, what the international cricket and the best of the best are. But I don't see them faring the way that PNG did against the West Indies, because the PNG side have had experience against decent teams. They've played a lot of associate cricket. They've been in World Cup qualifier tournaments before, whereas this is Uganda's first real taste of this level. So again, I expect the West Indies to dominate this one, but I don't want them to take it lightly, because as we've seen in Group A, for example, no game in this World Cup will be an easy win. You have to come out and you have to execute, because conditions are so in the Caribbean that they can easily favor you, and you can find yourself in deep trouble early if you're not on the ball from the get-go.
Yeah, and Nikhil, the only team that we haven't seen so far in Group C is New Zealand, one of the group favourites, and they're up against Afghanistan this evening, and an opportunity for them to win and join West Indies, Afghanistan and Uganda all on 2 points. If we look at the point standings there, the Afghanistan are top of the table at the moment based on net run rate, ahead of the West Indies and Uganda. Uganda with a game more though, and the fact is that New Zealand, if they get a victory over Afghanistan today, would make it 4 teams on 2 points, albeit in that instance, Afghanistan and New Zealand would have had differing numbers of games to get to the 2 points that they have. But a tight-looking group as far as we can see, and pretty important for the New Zealanders to get a good start today. We're anxious to see what they offer to Afghanistan later this evening.
To be honest, Lance, I thought long and hard about this today. I think Afghanistan are favourites in this game, honestly. And there's a bit of weather around, so I think the toss will be critical, which team chases. But when I look at New Zealand's batting order, the top 5, so you think about Finn Allen, Devon Conway, Kane Williamson, Glenn Phillips is in there. They have not played T20 cricket since February, when they had that Australia series, because Kane Williamson and Glenn Phillips, for example, didn't play any games. Well, Williamson played 1. Glenn Phillips did not play a single game at the IPL. Devon Conway was injured, Finn Allen was injured. I just think, given the fact that they did not play a single warm-up game, then you go to Guyana against Afghanistan bowling attack that's full of confidence and are so versatile in all conditions, but Guyana has shown to be the most spin-friendly when you look at the numbers. I really fear for them, and it's an 8:30 game. It will be foreign conditions. I expect a lot of dew or a wet outfield if the rain does fall. I think Afghanistan are real favourites. This is a huge opportunity for Afghanistan to stamp their authority and try to qualify for that Super 8 phase. The biggest question for them is going to be their batting. The openers did really well the other night, scored 154, but when they got out, they only scored 30-odd runs in the last 6, and that is a big concern. If Rashid Khan, Nabi, Omar Zai can come to the party in the middle order, I think this is game on. Really excited for this clash.
Yeah, and the Bangladesh-Sri Lanka game could be an interesting one as well. That takes place in Dallas later tonight.
Yeah, massive game. Obviously, Sri Lanka have had their struggles logistically, but they will understand this is a do-or-die game for them because I think South Africa, we can expect to get that top seed, but the second one could come down easily to Bangladesh. The Netherlands will say they're in with a chance as well, and Sri Lanka, and three teams who have been a bit inconsistent in recent times. Bangladesh losing that series to the USA, they've had injuries as well. So a lot up for grabs tonight. And again, I keep saying it, foreign conditions to most teams, but for these two, I think they'll be a bit more used to pitches that are not as easy or comfortable for batting. So let's see who can adapt the quickest. I think Sri Lanka probably start as favourites, given the struggles Bangladesh have had in recent times. But again, you never know. Shakib Hassan, there's a lot of experience in that Bangladesh unit. Let's see how they go.
Yeah, and a quick comment before you go, Nikhil, on the ICC statement that they've accepted that the pitch has been substandard in the New York venue. The words they used is that it's not as consistent as they would have wanted, so they haven't actually, been explicit to say it's been a bad pitch. They just said that it wasn't as consistent, but they're saying that experts are working to improve how the pitch plays. Did you detect any difference in what happened in the Canada game today based on how the pitch played? I saw Nicholas Curtin post-game suggesting that the pitch was a little bit dodgy, certain parts in the middle part, but he didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah, it was funny because I think the Niall O'Brien that was interviewing him said, "You look comfortable out there," and he immediately stopped him and said, No, I wasn't comfortable at all. Because I think it speaks to how difficult it is to get in on that surface. You just can't trust the bounce. You don't know which one is going to sort of shoot, which one is going to stay low. How does the slower deliveries or sort of the older ball react? And maybe a slight improvement, but again, the challenges that they faced with that surface, Lance, is that they brought it from Adelaide and then tried to grow the grass in Florida. And it's so hard for the ground staff, as good as they are. It's hard for anybody in the world to grow grass and get a surface ready in the matter of months. So again, it's going to be an adjustment for teams. I don't know how much the ICC can do to improve that. It'll be a lot of rolling, a lot of time put into that surface. But maybe a bit better. But I think that the games on that surface is going to come down to which team can bowl the best. And that's why I think Pakistan, as bad as they were against the USA yesterday, I just think the way that game is set up, India-Pakistan on Sunday, on that surface where fast bowlers have wreaked havoc, if they can sort of win the toss, bowl first, 10:30 game, morning, you don't know what you're going to get. They could easily have a great chance to beat India. And that's what I kind of like about it, that it really is anyone's game based on the toss and based on how that pitch reacts on the given day, because you just don't know.
Yeah, and quickly before you go, Nikhil, I want to know which side you're on, because I've heard varying views on the pitch conditions. Some people feel that batsmen are now being challenged to bat properly and make adjustments, and others feel the pitch is, being too paced and the variable bounce creates physical danger to the batsmen. Which side are you on?
I think it depends, Lance, because if you look at the Dallas pitch yesterday, I'll tell you I want that every day of the week, more than the 250s, 270s. I love to see up 150, 160, and there's a challenge for the batters, as you mentioned. Yeah. But I don't necessarily like to see the variable bounce because it's dangerous, just for the fact that guys can get injured. You don't want to lose those sort of big names in a World Cup by that way. So I think I'm definitely on the side of a Dallas pitch where I like the challenge, equal balance between bat and ball. You have to work for your runs, but you get value in your shots, as opposed to a New York where there's variable bounce, a sluggish outfield, or even like a Kensington Oval where it's very slow. I like when there's green grass on the pitch and there's that balance between bat and ball. So I think I'm on the Dallas side of things.
Okay, thanks, Nikhil. And we'll talk again early in the week, I'm sure, to review what happens with the West Indies and Uganda and the other matches that are going to be played over the weekend. Thanks, Nikhil.
Cheers, guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, so a great result for the Canadians today, defeating Ireland, an associate member defeating a full member. We take our minds back, Murad, to 2007 when Ireland upset Pakistan and knocked them out of the 50-over World Cup. Bob Woolmer, the Pakistan coach, died later that night, and the tables just being turned here. Ireland were the giant killers then. Today they are slayed by an associate
Canada.
member team, the Canadians. So a lot happening in T20 Cricket World Cup here, and the tournament is pretty exciting, and I can tell you that. So many matches set up for the weekend, and we'll be looking at them closely. And of course, Monday on the Zone, we'll be reviewing those matches and everything else that happens in sport over the weekend. We'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone after this.
Somewhere I feel it in my soul. One chance is everything we've waited for. It's our time, so let me take it home and knock it out of this